The iPhone 8 and 8 Plus were released just before the iPhone 10 in late 2017, and in my opinion, were the most underrated smartphones of that year. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we're going to be talking about why the iPhone 8 was massively underrated. I feel like the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus were mostly overlooked last year because of the game-changing iPhone 10, and fair enough, they really weren't anything we hadn't seen before and seemed more like the iPhone 7S than the iPhone 8, and that's basically what they were. But the iPhone 8 was still super solid, and in my opinion really wasn't that much worse than the iPhone 10, and was still one of the best phones of last year, at least the most underrated, although I suppose you could make arguments on the Android side for the smaller Pixel 2 and maybe LG V30. But let's first get this out of the way. The iPhone 10 was without a doubt the better phone. It had Face ID, some camera improvements over the iPhone 8 Plus, stainless steel, and that beautiful huge OLED display. The iPhone 8 was stuck with the same screen we've been seeing since the iPhone 6, and that was a big nope for a lot of people. And fair enough. But the iPhone 8 was still a great phone and probably had more in common with the 10 than you might have realized. The smaller 8 was definitely a decent step down with only a single camera and 2GB of RAM, but the larger 8 Plus had a secondary camera lens, the same performance capabilities as the 10, Touch ID, which was kind of faster than Face ID actually, and a wider display. About a month ago, I switched from my iPhone 10 that I'd been using for almost a year to the iPhone 8 Plus, and I found myself liking it almost just as much. I really wasn't excited at all about switching from it to the new 10S just a couple weeks ago, as it was totally fine and I had become pretty attached to it. I especially loved the amazing battery life. I was lasting all day without any issues, unlike my iPhone 10, and I often still had 40 to 50% left by the time I went to bed, which is actually crazy. What's even crazier is that the iPhone XR this year apparently will be getting an extra hour and a half of battery life over the 8 Plus. That thing is going to be an absolute monster. The 8 Plus provided no drop in performance when I switched to it from the 10, and I enjoyed being able to watch a video without worrying about the notch. The home button was a bit of an adjustment. The first day I was swiping up the control center a lot, but once I got used to it, I didn't mind. I prefer the iPhone X's gesture system over the home button for sure, as it does feel more natural and fluid, but the home button's fine, and Touch ID seemed to be even more convenient than Face ID, I think. I really can't choose which I prefer, to be honest, Face ID or Touch ID, because both feel seamless, and that's all I need in a phone. The display may not have been OLED, but it still looked more than good enough to me, and because it also has True Tone, there wasn't a huge difference in coloring. It looked natural. The most obvious drawback was the lack of true blacks, which I'd really grown to appreciate on my iPhone 10, and using my phone at night wasn't as great because of it. But it didn't bug me enough to make me want to switch back, and within a few days I had gotten pretty used to it. The iPhone 8 has a glass back that allows for wireless charging, just like the iPhone 10, and while it has an aluminum frame which results in worse durability, it also makes the phone lighter overall, which is really nice when you're using a case. Technically the iPhone 10 is lighter than the iPhone 8 Plus, but because the 8 Plus doesn't have the weight as concentrated into such a small footprint, it felt lighter, if that makes any sense. The iPhone 10 always felt a little chunky to me, but the 8 Plus doesn't. It's slick, light, and thin, and is extremely comfortable to hold in the hand. I was a little worried about the size of the iPhone 8 Plus, as I have relatively small hands, and the 10 always felt perfect, but I actually had no problem with it. I didn't even hardly notice the larger size, and I was never really in a situation that made me wish for a smaller phone, and when it came to watching YouTube or Netflix, the bigger phone really made it a much better experience. But this video isn't really supposed to be me just talking about switching from the 10 to the 8. I think what I'm trying to say here is that while everyone talks highly of the iPhone 10, I think the 8 deserves a lot of praise too, because except for the display, it's able to accomplish everything the 10 can do at a lighter price tag. And if you prefer the older design with the home button over Touch ID, then this is literally the best phone you can buy, even a year later. The iPhone 8 Plus is faster than the majority of Android phones out there, which is something often disregarded in the tech community. I wonder why. It has a beautiful design, even if it is similar to what we've seen since the 6. But that in a lot of ways is better for some because it's familiar, unlike the foreign and confusing iPhone 10. Looking at that from the perspective of potential buyers who don't know a lot about technology, keep that in mind. The iPhone 8 has a great camera that shoots in 12 megapixels and can film 4K at 60 frames per second. The 8 Plus has amazing battery life, is thin and light, and overall is just the complete package. The iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are still great phones in 2018, and considering they start at $600 $100 on Apple's website, it's really outstanding to me that more people haven't talked about these phones. They're the real deal, and as far as iPhones go, these are some of the best valued ones out there. You might be thinking that screen really ruins the phone, but keep in mind, Apple's core market aren't people who are tech enthusiasts, who even know what an OLED screen is. For the average Joe out there, the iPhone 8 Plus is probably a much better deal than getting the iPhone 10. They don't need the iPhone 10, the iPhone 8 can do everything they want it to, and it can do it at a cheaper price tag. Again, I don't know, I feel like the iPhone 8 just got a bad rap last year for being the same old, and while it might have been to an extent, I still think it's a great phone. In conclusion to this relatively short video, the iPhone 8 is massively underrated. It's a really solid phone, and just because it doesn't have the display of the iPhone 10 doesn't mean it should be overlooked, although it has been by most people, at least in the tech community. If you'd like to see a more in-depth look at the iPhone 8, I'll leave a link in the description to my full review. It mostly talks about whether or not it's still worth buying, but I think I cover a lot in there that you might want to see. And with that, I think I'm pretty much done for this video. I really did enjoy my time with the iPhone 8 Plus, and honestly, I didn't really want to give it up, but I felt like I should because the iPhone XS was the newest phone at the time, and I've always committed to trying to have the newest phone at the time, at least for the last year I have been. And you know what? I'm liking the XS a lot too. I definitely don't feel like I miss the 8 Plus. I miss its battery, but the rest of it, the XS is definitely a better phone, and the camera and screen really make up for it for me. But I don't think the iPhone 10 and XS are as much of an upgrade as people give it credit for. If you found this video interesting, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram if you so desire, links below. And with that all being said, I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.